Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2019. Happy January. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna the Medium. Thank you so much for coming back. For those of you who are new, thank you so much. I hope you stay. I hope you like what you hear. A lot of exciting energy this month. I seem to be getting information that goes a little bit further. So I often talk about February and March. So do listen to these, come back to these when you can. As always, my intention is to give you information that will ultimately help you evolve and grow, that will help you feel empowered, that will help you feel love towards yourself, that will help you feel appreciation for who you are, which is an amazing, amazing divine being. Whatever you take out of this, please always know that it may not make sense to you right away. It makes sense to you later. Some things may hit you right away. Some things may not hit you until 2 weeks from now or a month from now. So do listen to this with an open heart and an open mind. Also, for any private sessions, of course, which I always love to do, that information is down below. Also, the 2019 6-month messages are up and running. I have also included that information for you down below, so make sure you go ahead and check it. And above all, I want to thank you again for coming back. I feel this is an exciting year for all of us. So stay tuned. I hope you like these. Of course, please comment. I always love reading your comments. Thank you again so much for sharing, subscribing, liking. I love each and every one of your energy. You contribute to what I do. So without further ado, Happy New Year once again. Let's start with your messages. Hello, beautiful Capricorns. These are going to be your messages for January 2019. Happy New Year to you if you are listening in the new year. Let's start off with well, actually, you know what? Let me just start with whatever. The first thing I will say is that when I was meditating on energy for you in terms of what I can give you to help you in your life, the idea of a rooster was being presented to me, and this is a symbol for something that you might want to look at some point. So look at animal totem rooster. But when I saw the rooster in my mind, it automatically felt like I wanted to say the words "wake up," and when I felt the words "wake up," I feel that many of you have been sleeping, or you have been in what I would call hibernation mode. So very much feels like the month of January is going to feel like you are waking up, or it is a message for you to start and wake yourself up. And we will talk about what that may specifically mean for you. But there is, well, you know what it's like when a rooster wakes up first thing in the morning and it starts to sing its song. Everybody wakes up. So it's almost like waking up from a slumber. This is a good sign. It's a good omen because it tells me that there is freshness in the air. There is new energy, which also symbolizes to me brand new beginnings. So look up what rooster means to you. When I briefly looked at the symbolism, it talked about luck and anything that you are working on, or specifically a difficult situation. There is luck around you, or you can trust that luck will be around you. At the same time, I tend to believe that although I believe in luck, luck is really a combination of things we have done in the past, perhaps subconsciously, and now they're coming to fruition. So it isn't just out of the blue. And why do I want to say this to you? Because apparently many of you have been asking for help. You have not been seeing help for a while, at least not the way you would have liked to see it. However, that does not mean that help isn't coming, but it may come in different ways than you have expected. So if there is an important challenge that you have had on your mind or on your shoulders for quite some time, you can expect early this year, and I'm drawn to the middle of March. By the middle of March, for many of you, that you will find a satisfactory solution or resolution to either a current situation that is occupying your mind, or a situation that needs resolving. So this is obviously going to mean different things to different people. We all have different lives. The number 3 is being shown to me, which is a number of expansion, but it's also a month of March. For those of you, perhaps for some of you, March is March is really, really important. But there's a distinction regarding the number 3, and I want to see what expansion. What I want to say is what's the thing that you have been thinking about. For many of you, it's to do with income or change around income, and if you have been planting seeds in terms of trying to find a more satisfying job or a more satisfying career, I feel like many of you will, certainly by the end of this year, have arrived at a conclusion that either A, where you are, you don't belong anymore, or B, you have determined that already in the past, and by the end of this year, you will transition into doing something very different. So obviously, not every one of you will change careers, but there seems to be a lot of you who are transitioning into either new things altogether or adding new things to your daily routine, and that for some of you, that's financially. There's a financial component in there as well. So mark March in your calendars and see what comes up there. So let's start with some cards. The first 2 cards represent what is leaving you, loosely, because then I always veer off to other things. So 3 of Coins is one card, and if I can get it, Death in Reverse is another. For those of you who know me for a little bit, I am not a traditional tarot reader. I actually don't know how to read cards. I know some of the symbolism, but I kind of do my own thing. I go purely on intuition and some on the traditional meaning. So when I first connected to the 3 of Coins, obviously for those of you who know cards, it talks in terms of expansion. So yes, some of you may have expanded your family, some of you may have expanded your career, some of you may have transitioned into a situation where you're able to use more of your skills. There is an expansion that has transpired in the last little while for you, financially for some of you. For others of you, perhaps you have welcomed a new member to your family, and it doesn't have to be the human kind. It can also be a cat or a dog or a lizard for that matter. So some of you have, in the last little while, you've gotten yourself a pet or 2. But because it's shown to me in the past, it means it has happened. However, the Death in Reverse to me symbolizes that for some of you, the expansion is as a result of something that you had to leave behind. In other words, something has transpired. You have gone through transformation, and you may have lost something in the process. You may have lost something physically, financially, emotionally, and at the same time, it afforded you the opportunity or the ability to start something new. So that is how I see this message and this energy. It is partially leaving you. All I can say is that many of you have transitioned through something probably quite challenging and difficult in the last year and year and a half, but you are moving on from that. Well, hallelujah. The card that represents January is interesting because the 7 of Swords is I want to say there's a cunning energy with this card. So when I tuned in to what that means for you, I felt like in the month of January you have lots of ideas, but you are afraid that if somebody finds out, your ideas will not end up being as successful as you want. So obviously, in terms of career, this is perhaps something that you are working on the side, and you don't want anyone to know about this. For some of you, this is an interesting message. Some of you are very critical in terms of how you view yourself versus others, particularly in a particular situation. So if you are vying for a position, for example, and if there's more than one person vying for it, notice if you're comparing yourself to other candidates, and in a process you end up feeling less than good. Why is this being shown to me? Why is this being shown to me? For some of you, it's a pattern, and patterns are hard to resist. But for those of you who negative thinking or believe, who negative thinking about yourself is something that you are often dealing with, then perhaps it's time to change that tape. So for some of you, that's going to be the message. But I feel like there's something more that I'm not getting from this. I feel like somebody's trying to get away with something. Whether it's someone that in your life that you might want to watch out for. And again, this could be somebody getting away with your ideas, or this is just somebody trying to get away with something. So I want to say, for some of you, exercise caution. This could also even be a relative who's trying to get something from you. There's just something there. So just kind of keep an eye on that. It's not a big deal. For some of you, I want to say watch your wallet, because it feels like somebody's trying to get away with something. So depending on when you're listening to this, always be mindful of where your belongings are. But there is a message here about watching your wallet. So just keep in mind, I know I've had that message before a long, long time ago, and some of you have responded that you were pretty close. So anyway, moving on, what might be happening at the end of January or a little bit past January? The Eight of Cups, when it shows up to me in reverse position, is telling me that there is still something that you are working through and you're not willing to let go of. For some of you, this is financially related, which means you are still going to be in a position you perhaps don't want to be, but because financially, well, you need to take care of yourself. At the same time, I feel that if this is an obstacle for you, if the finances are the obstacle that you're having difficulty moving on, I feel that somehow, somewhere, you'll either receive good news about something financial that will help you, either to help you financially or help you move on from where you are, or somebody will give you a helping hand. They'll either tell you about something that might spark your interest. They might invite you to a game. Somebody might invite you to a game, and then you happen to run into somebody and you end up talking to them, and they talk about this job that is available, and all of a sudden, oh my God, here you go. So obviously that's so specific, it's not going to be for all of you, but there's something here about you needing to let something go, and you're still holding on to it, but something is coming in the near future that will help you release it. A lot of it is going to be financial. At least that is what I hear. Perhaps for some of you, this is you being financially obligated to something or someone who is no longer in your life, but for whatever reason, that is, it's preventing you perhaps from financially contributing somewhere else. If that is the case for you, and this could be things like child support or paying for some loan or some kind of obligation, financial obligation, I feel many of you will receive some kind of a gift that will help you either implement a new financial plan, or it will help you release from your current existing financial obligation. So again, hope it's for a lot of you, but I don't think so. This is going to mean something for some of you. For others of you, it's emotionally being unable to move on from something that is clearly no longer working. So some of you will be resisting letting something go. However, I want to move on and see what's going on. Obviously, if you would like more information a little bit further into 2019, Vimeos are already posted. So you can go ahead, click on that, and you can see what the next 6 months will bring you. But what is the energy that is hindering you in a month of January? Interesting messages. Spiritual technology and returning the favor. Again, I'm not going to go with the meaning of these cards. I'm going to feel what each one is to me. The spiritual technology is all about getting too stuck on the idea of doing spiritual things in order to get rid of something that is no longer working for you. And examples being given. You can go to 1,000 readers and they'll give you messages. You can look at 1,000 horoscopes, it'll give you a message. You can ask people for input, they'll give you a message. You can start reading a whole bunch of books, you'll get messages. At the end of the day, it's still up to you to implement that process, whatever it is. So I want to say, for those of you who are very invested in spiritual healing and going to spiritual healers and doing whatever spiritual healing, I want you to also remember that part of spiritual healing is you doing the hard work, which isn't always very comfortable. In other words, there's no such thing as some healer waving his or her wand that will automatically or magically erase all your problems. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you have to start dealing with what's in front of you in a different way. So that's a message for some of you. Don't get too hung up on going to see all these people who you feel will help you, but at the end of the day, you're not implementing any of that knowledge, because that isn't helpful. The other part of the message is, I want to say, you already know enough. Again, it's a very similar message. If you feel that you need something more in order to deal with whatever you want to deal with, I feel most of you already have the answers. What it does take, though, is the ability and willingness to listen to what the answer is, and also creating a circumstance where you can allow yourself to be still. So some of you are running off your feet, you're always very busy, and at the end of the day, the answers we all have come from deep inside. So if you are constantly busy, if you are constantly on the run, if you are constantly someone who sacrifices everything that you do or are for other people, then chances are you're not being very mindful of your own needs, or if you are, you're neglecting it. So it's a bit of a, I mean, we're coming out off of a busy season. Holiday season is very busy for many people. And chances are you were one of these individuals who had a lot of family over, or you did a lot of work, or maybe you didn't do a lot, but this particular season, Christmas, can feel emotionally very draining for very many people. So all I want to say here is that if there's any inclination towards wanting to do healing, always remember that the most important part is you doing the hard work. Returning the favor is another message that I'm going to tune into. I don't know if you can see it here. First and foremost, when I see this, I want to say to you, you're not alone. So this is a message for those of you who come from isolation or who are currently in isolation. If you have been hiding from the world because things have been, well, not so great, I want to say you're not alone. When we go through difficulties, And when we're dealing with whatever we deal with, oftentimes, we'll have people around us, but we will in fact feel very alone. So I see that a lot of you have been dealing with some pain. There's no question around it. November comes for some of you, so perhaps this has reared its ugly head in November. And for some of you, it's earlier last year, earlier 2018. But there's a message here of compassion towards yourself. If you have a challenge, and it's something that really stands out for you, and it's something that doesn't just come up in January. It could, but it's mostly for you, for those of you who have been struggling. Okay, if you were to imagine yourself in your current situation as a movie on a screen, and you watched that movie, watching yourself on that screen, but you're watching it so you have no emotions, no connections, what would you observe about yourself? What would you see where some of the things you were learning about yourself, but because you were emotionally too attached to it, you couldn't see? That exercise will give some of you some tremendous insight, and I feel it will allow you to move on from whatever this is that you are struggling with. For some of you, it's family dynamics. For some of you, it's loss of a job. For some of you, it's financial setback. For some of you, it's other things. Whatever it is for you, do this exercise and see what turns up. You might be surprised. Now, what is working for you? Brilliant. Mountain, which represents obstacle, but don't fret, and magic prayer. So the way I saw these messages, right there somewhere, okay? The way I saw these messages is that whatever obstacle you are dealing with, okay, your prayers will be answered. Now, does that mean that all your prayers will be answered? Well, actually, they're saying yes. However, they may not be answered in the way that you want to see it, or the way you want it to appear, or you may not have the solution to it right now. It may come later. So for some of you, this is a call for patience. So what is the energy working for you? The message basically is have faith, have hope, and do your due diligence, but hope for the best. Clearly for those of you who are dealing with something specific. For some of you, what's the saying? Let the old dogs lie. Is that what the saying goes? In other words, if there is some situation in your life where it's been inflamed with a lot of anger, let's say you're dealing with somebody who's very angry, or you had a situation and there's a lot of conflict and anger, I feel like going back and poking at it is not a good idea. So what's another way that I can say this? If something is to be completed, if some aspect of your life has come to an end, even though you may not be happy with the fact that it happened, going back and rehashing things is not going to work. So this is clearly a very specific message for some of you. For others of you, it's going to mean nothing, or it'll maybe mean something down the road. But bottom line is, for those of you who are hoping to get your prayer answered pertaining to some sort of situation in your life, it looks like your prayer will in fact be answered, maybe just not exactly in the way that you're hoping for. So the message here is be open. The other thing I want to say here is make sure your energy flow is corresponding to the answer that you're seeking. In other words, whatever answer it is you're hoping for, Notice what energies you would need to emit from yourself in order to align yourself with that answer. I know this is going to make some sense to some of you, and some of you will have no idea what I just said. So if that's the case for you, don't worry about it, because it might come back to you some other time. Now, final message for you. I asked for inspiration. The corn is the card. It represents harvest. It's number 10, which is also suggestive of ending of a cycle. More accurately said, completion. Therefore, if you have gone through some difficulties in whatever area of your life, it could be health, it could be financial, it could be medical, it could be anything. Whatever you have gone or still going through, it is important to recognize your reoccurring patterns in order so that you don't keep on repeating them again. You've come to a point of your own evolution where many changes can take place inside your own mind. In order for that to happen and for it to be successful, it's best that you come from a place of knowingness, or in other words, of knowing yourself. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to what you think about or what you put your effort and attention to, for that is exactly what will come back to you tenfold as a result of your focused attention. So part of the message here is you're at the end of a cycle. It's time to let go of some things in your life. At the same time, it is a message that says if you have been planting seeds, if you have been watering them, if you have been attending them and nurturing them, it's a pretty good indication that you're going to get the fruit of your hard labor. And perhaps this is the message that was said earlier regarding you getting your wish met or your prayer answered. What you have sown, you will reap. It's also an indication that whatever it is that you will sow for future, make sure these are the benefits you want to reap from whatever seeds you are sowing. Another way of saying this is make sure you understand the condition of your mind, for your mind is a very creative source. When this creative source is put into action, you will be amazed at the results that you will get. So, if you're not paying attention to your thoughts, chances are you're going to be spewing a whole bunch of things that you don't want at the end of the day as your manifestation. And yet another way to say this is, we are in a time where planting seeds is not only important, but it is a time where the soil is very ripe and very rich. Which means we better make sure what seedlings we are planting. Because if we plant the ones that we've planted in the past that didn't produce the results we wanted, if we plant the same seeds again, chances are we'll get again what we don't want. So pay attention to your mind, pay attention to your thoughts. Any sort of self-sacrifice in terms of you have sacrificed your integrity for somebody else. You have sacrificed your time for something. You have overburdened yourself in the past. Anything to do with self-sacrifice. Sacrifice is amazing, but when we use sacrifice in order to gain safety and security or some other agenda, that's when it becomes very imbalanced. So for those of you who have had tendencies to overburden yourself, overcommit yourself, overgive of yourself to others, anything of that sort, I have a feeling that in the next year or two, you will transition out of that behavior. And that all starts with your thoughts. So pay attention to what you think about once again. Is there anything else? Most of you who are listening to this are in a process of restoring faith, not only in yourself, but also in humanity. That's what I'm being asked to say. So there it is. Which means the idea of evolution in terms of raising consciousness or vibration begins with each and every individual who emits his or her own frequency. In other words, we are all in the process of evolving. How we evolve and to what degree is dependent on each and every individual. And it all starts with our thoughts. So with that said, I think I'm going to leave it. I hope this was helpful. If this makes any sense to you, congratulations. If it doesn't, leave it for now. Come back to it later. Always know that the energies are fluid. So what I may be receiving for January might transpire in the month of February for you. Of course, if you would like to comment how this connects with you, I would love to read it for personal messages, not messages, for personal sessions. That information is down below. Thank you so much for sharing, for liking, for subscribing, and for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I wish you a wonderful new year once again. Thank you so much once again, and see you soon. And of course, the Vimeos for 2019 are on the bottom. Click there and it'll take you right to the site. Okay,